Chapter 48-44. Fire Phoenix King. Why are you here? Xiao Hua was also surprised. He looked at Fire Phoenix King in confusion. Fire Phoenix King smiled and said, I'm here to tell Xiao Sheng and Huang Sheng about the space passage in the Dawn Rain continent. Hearing Fire Phoenix King's words, Xiao Hua really felt like he was at the end of the road. He almost couldn't believe his ears and asked, What? You know about the space passage to the Dawn Rain continent? Yes, why didn't you say so earlier? Huang Tong was also confused. Although the Fire Phoenix King had already appeared, she still looked hesitant. She replied, To be honest with Xiao Sheng and Huang Sheng, I don't know if this passageway is located in the Dawn Rain continent. However, from how much the Swift Cherry Supreme Sage values it, it should be related to the Dawn Rain continent. The Dawn Rain continent? Xiao Hua took a deep breath. He believed Fire Phoenix King's words a little more. However, he still asked, What do you mean? Actually. Fire Phoenix King smiled and said, When Xiao Sheng showed off his power in the Gale Abyss, I was not in the spiritual realm. I was entrusted by the Dawn Rain continent I came to the Origin Cave to find out some secrets that only she knew about. Of course, she did not tell me what the secrets were, and I did not intend to ask. However, when I heard that Xiao Sheng and Huang Sheng wanted to go to the Dawn Rain continent, I suddenly realized that this place is related to the Dawn Rain continent. It must be because Xiao Sheng and the others broke through the realm and attracted the Dawn Rain continent's attention. She sent me here to take a look. I understand. Xiao Hua cupped his hands and said, That's why Fire Phoenix King asked me to go to the Origin realm to ask the Dawn Rain continent. I thank you. Sigh, it's a pity that the Dawn Rain continent did not agree, so I wanted to hide this from you. Fire Phoenix King sighed and said, However, after thinking about it, I felt that Xiao Sheng, Huang Sheng, and even the Phoenix King would rather fall into the strange realm than return to the Dawn Rain continent to save billions of lives. Such a feat. I had to help, so I waited here. Oh. Fire Phoenix King wants to do something the Rushing Cherry Grand Sage doesn't want to see? Huang Tong couldn't believe it. Of course, I won't tell you the exact location of the passageway. Fire Phoenix King smiled. Also, I would like to ask Phoenix Saint a question. As long as Phoenix Saint can tell me, I will tell you where it is. No problem, Fire Phoenix King, please speak. Huang Tong agreed without hesitation. I heard that not long after Huang Sheng appeared in the 10,000 demon realm, the colorful Phoenix King sent thousands of Phoenix envoys to the Bobo wasteland to welcome Huang Sheng. I wonder how she knew about Huang Sheng's appearance. And why is she looking for Huang Sheng? Fire Phoenix King's question was not out of Huang Tong and Xiao Hua's expectations. Huang Tong smiled and said, It's very simple. It's because colorful Phoenix King has seen the saint rankings and knows that we have appeared. As for how she knew we were in the wasteland, that's not something we can know. As for why she came to us, she didn't make it clear. She only asked if Huang Sheng and Feng Sheng knew her, if it was him, and who was him. As for why colorful Phoenix King is looking for him, she didn't say. Xiao Hua didn't hesitate and directly answered, Phoenix Sage and Phoenix Sage naturally aren't that, so they were also confused. I was in a hurry to return to Dawn Rain continent, so I tactfully declined the invitation of the colored Phoenix King to head to Phoenix Shrine. So that's how it is. Xiao Hua didn't understand who the colorful Phoenix King was referring to, but Fire Phoenix King understood immediately. Who is this him? Huang Tong asked curiously. How could Fire Phoenix King tell him? Just as she was about to refuse, she suddenly had a thought and smiled, Phoenix Envoy can ask, but after I tell you, Phoenix Saint has to promise me one thing. How could Huang Tong be fooled? He smiled and said, "If that's the case, then forget it." "Hee, then I won't say more." Fire Phoenix King smiled and whispered. Xiaohua's heart moved and asked, "Can Fire Phoenix King tell me what Phoenix Saint has to promise?" "It's nothing." Fire Phoenix King hesitated for a moment and said, "I just want to tell you about him, and ask you to kill him when you see him." "Forget it, forget it." Hearing this, Xiaohua waved his hand and said, "We don't even know who him is, so how can we kill him? Let's not talk about this." "It's nothing." Fire Phoenix King smiled when she heard this. "That him is most likely dead, or else Colorful Phoenix King would have found him long ago." "Damn it!" Huang Tong scolded, "It's up to you whether you want to say it or not, but why do you always swallow your words? This is a serious matter, and it's not something you and I can get involved in." Fire Phoenix King said hurriedly. "Rather than knowing, it's better not to know. I didn't say it because I was thinking for Xiaosheng and Phoenix Saint. We are going to the Dawn Rain continent anyway, so these secrets are nothing." Xiaohua said with a smile. "It's just an old human with the surname One." Fire Phoenix King said anxiously. "Even I don't know what he looks like." "An old human with the surname One?" Fire Phoenix King didn't mean it, but Xiaohua was interested. He immediately thought of the celestial emissary from the celestial realm. It seemed that in the 10,000 demon realm, other than this Shen human, he had never seen any other human race. Could it be that this old human with the surname One had the same origin as the immortal emissary with the surname Shen? "What surname One and Li?" Huang Tong said impatiently. "We have never seen them before." Fire Phoenix King, quickly tell us the location of that place. "Okay." Fire Phoenix King got what she wanted to know, so she wasn't stingy. She raised her phoenix claw and pointed into the distance. "That place is in that direction. As for where and how far it is, forgive me for not being able to say. I hope Xiaosheng and Phoenix Saint are lucky enough. Goodbye." With that, Fire Phoenix King didn't stay any longer. She spread her wings and flew into the sky, disappearing in an instant. "Damn it, what's the difference between that and not saying anything?" Huang Tong scolded in a low voice. Fire Phoenix King's move, who knows how many regions fell into it? Xiaohua didn't answer. Instead, he looked at the place where Fire Phoenix King disappeared. He stroked his chin and said, "It seems that Fire Phoenix King is very familiar with this space. He came here more than once, so he could escape into the void and avoid the attack of the void storm." Huang Tong understood what Xiaohua was saying and agreed. He has long wanted to use what we know to find out the secret of Fire Phoenix King. That's why he didn't go to the original realm but stayed nearby. He must have seen Divine Mother Peacock or Fire Phoenix King earlier and knew that we came to the Origin Cave. That's why he made this deal with us before we did. The problem is that he has a good impression of the Swift Cherry Grand Sage. How could he do something against the Swift Cherry Grand Sage? Xiaohua still didn't understand. "Huh." Huang Tong laughed and pointed into the distance with her wings. "With just a point, who knows where the so-called space passage is?" And Fire Phoenix King said it clearly. He is just guessing and can't be taken seriously. Using this kind of meaningless information in exchange for Fire Phoenix King's secret, isn't that better than anything else? That old man surnamed One, is he also a celestial envoy in human form? Xiaohua frowned. Who knows? Huang Tong shrugged. This has nothing to do with us. Let's hurry and find the space passage. We have to find it wherever we go. Why don't we go in that direction? Xiaohua looked in the direction Fire Phoenix King pointed and smiled. Let's go. Although I don't believe Fire Phoenix King, I also believe that he can't set up any traps. Huang Tong flapped her wings and rushed into the gap between the whirlpools. Unfortunately, Huang Tong couldn't see Fire Phoenix King in the void. Otherwise, she would be able to see some clues from Fire Phoenix King's smile. The origin cave was really boundless. Even if there was no problem with the direction Fire Phoenix King pointed, as Xiaohua and Huang Tong went deeper, strange space whirlpools began to appear from time to time. The suction of these space whirlpools was just like what Peacock Mother said. Sometimes, it was so strong that it was impossible to resist. Xiaohua and Huang Tong were lucky enough to escape from danger several times. However, after flying in for more than 10 days, they didn't see the space passage Fire Phoenix King mentioned. Helpless, Xiaohua put Huang Tong back into his body. At the same time, he asked Feng Wu, Thunder Immortal, and the others to come out of the space and enter their bodies. If they encountered multiple space passages and couldn't avoid them, they would each enter one and leave it to fate. On this day, Xiaohua had just used the thunder escape technique to avoid a space crack that was tens of thousands of feet wide. Before he could catch his breath, he saw that the space crack was shrinking and suddenly, violently swelled. This swelling was different from the space crack. It was like boiling water that covered the entire origin cave. Oh no! Xiaohua was shocked. Because in this swelling, the strong power of the realm ruthlessly seeped out. It was like a guillotine that blocked him from all sides. However, before Xiaohua could use the thunder escape technique to escape into the gap of the realm power, he saw that within 10,000 miles of the space, 9 knot-like things appeared. Above these knots, 9 huge space cracks were entangled together like pythons. One end of these space cracks went straight into the depths of the origin cave. In the light, the silhouettes of some mountains and forests were revealed. This is a space vein. When Xiaohua saw this, he couldn't help but be overjoyed. However, this space vein seems to be tangled together. Could this be the space passage to the Dawn Rain continent? Fire Phoenix King didn't lie to us. Chapter 48-45. Just as Xiaohua had this thought, boom, 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 boom. 9 earth-shaking noises came from the 9 spatial nodes. The 81 spatial cracks opened up like awakened pythons. Each spatial tunnel was filled with irresistible spatial power, filled with the laws of the world, and rushed towards Xiaohua. 9 spatial tunnels. Xiaohua suddenly realized, damn, I understand now. This is an innate array formed by 9 spatial tunnels. That Fire Phoenix King stopped me, pointed me in the right direction, and calculated the right time to make me fall into this spatial array. And the 9 spatial tunnels formed by this spatial array definitely don't lead to the Dawn Rain continent. If it wasn't the fast cherry sage who asked Fire Phoenix King to frame me, then Fire Phoenix King acted on his own accord. Furthermore, Fire Phoenix King already knew that I was going to fall into a spatial tunnel with my clones, so he prepared these 9 spatial tunnels and wanted us to fall into one each. This Fire Phoenix King is despicable. How powerful were the 9 spatial tunnels formed? Even if Xiaohua was a 10th grade essence power, he couldn't resist at all. Needless to say, everything within several tens of thousands of li was confined by the power of this world. Xiaohua couldn't escape even if he wanted to. Moreover, this confinement also tightly bound Xiaohua's body. His previous plan of sending his clones to various worlds was simply for naught. The 9 spatial tunnels fell like 9 huge ribbons and hit the space above Xiaohua's head. The space instantly split into 9 huge tunnels, and each tunnel had the same strange laws of heaven and earth surging out, competing with the laws of heaven and earth of the 10,000 demon realm. Xiaohua's golden body floated into one of the tunnels like a fallen leaf. Although Xiaohua tried his best to activate his divine ability, the power of thunder on the surface of his body flickered like fireflies. However, this passive world breaking was several times more powerful than the active world breaking from the 3 continents to the 10,000 demon realm. Xiaohua felt like his golden body was being crushed by a huge millstone. Not to mention releasing his clones, he couldn't even move his fingers. Xiaohua had just seen the boundary barrier, the swaying light and shadow, and the endless power of the world behind him. It was like two fierce generals fighting fiercely. At the same time, the power of heaven and earth gathered in Xiaohua's body. The impact of the laws of the world was far greater than the power of space. Xiaohua knew that his body couldn't resist, so he simply released his mind and tried his best to use the different laws of space to resist the confrontation of the laws of the two mature boundaries. Seeing that the laws of the 10,000 demon realm and the laws of the unknown boundary were like two boundless oceans, and the laws of his own space were like a pool of water, far from being able to resist, Xiaohua's heart moved. He naturally thought of the primordial spirit entrustment technique he had obtained before. At this time, his body was difficult to maintain, and this primordial spirit entrustment technique was like a life-saving straw. Xiaohua didn't hesitate to silently recite the incantation, and quickly released his primordial spirit, cooperating with his mind to spread above the laws of heaven and earth of the two worlds. Every primordial spirit entrustment technique was to separate a little bit of the primordial spirit from the primordial spirit, just like the demon race's external incarnation technique. The primordial spirit was like a seed that was planted outside the body. Magic tools were the common choice of Dao sect cultivators. Similarly, the quality of the magic tool also determined the brilliance of the primordial spirit entrustment technique. The Grand Mist Ancestor had a great opportunity and entrusted his primordial spirit to the Yin-Yang Illustration Handbook. Because the Yin-Yang Illustration Handbook was an ancient magic tool, if the Grand Mist Ancestor succeeded in refining it, he would be able to obtain an extremely long lifespan and many more divine abilities. Similarly, there were more people who entrusted their primordial spirit to other things, such as holy beasts, array diagrams, innate restrictions, and so on. It was said that people with great opportunities and divine abilities were able to entrust their primordial spirit to the void and entrust it to faith. However, people like Xiaohua who entrusted his primordial spirit to the laws of heaven and earth were unheard of. After all, the so-called void was just a void. A piece of void was still a void, and the void of a world was still a void. When one's comprehension of the space laws reached a certain level, building a small nest in a familiar void like an ant wouldn't be considered shocking. As for faith, it was even easier. Of course, this ease was relative. Without the approval of faith, wanting to entrust a trace of one's primordial spirit to the faith was harder than ascending to the heavens. Looking at the laws of heaven and earth that Xiaohua wanted to entrust his primordial spirit to, these laws were born from heaven and earth, and were like a boundless sea. Every strand of law seemed insignificant, but every strand of law represented heaven and earth. It was almost impossible for a person's will to surpass heaven and earth. Moreover, what Xiaohua was facing now wasn't just a strand of heaven and earth's law. Every strand of heaven and earth's law was connected to the array of the entire world. How could a person's will be entrusted? However, Xiaohua's primordial spirit and mind had long been integrated, and Xiaohua's mind had long been integrated with the various immature worlds in the space. Fundamentally speaking, his primordial spirit had been branded with the world's law. Previously, he didn't have the opportunity, so he didn't know how to entrust his primordial spirit. Now, at the critical moment of life and death, he released his primordial spirit. That primordial spirit was really like a huge tentacle, slowly touching the chaotic world's law. Boom boom boom. Xiaohua looked a little anxious. Wherever his primordial spirit passed, whether it was the world's law of the 10,000 demon realm or the world's law of the unknown world, it was as if they had seen their mortal enemy. They all produced a counterattack stronger than thunder, destroying these primordial spirit tentacles in an instant. Xiaohua's mind was greatly shocked, and he suddenly escaped from the void. The unspeakable tearing pain on his body was born again. Xiaohua looked at his somewhat blurred body that had been torn apart, and also felt the crisis in his Naiwan palace, Middle Dantian, and Lower Dantian. He didn't dare to be negligent, and hurriedly calmed his mind and carefully released his primordial spirit again. This time, Xiaohua learned his lesson. He didn't directly touch the world's law of the 10,000 demon realm and the unknown world, but first integrated with the few space laws on his body. The world's law of the 10,000 demon realm and the world's law of the unknown world collided with each other. Xiaohua's own space law was weak, and gradually entangled with these two kinds of laws in this collision. As the collision slowly grew stronger, Xiaohua's primordial spirit also slowly touched the two different worlds' laws. When Xiaohua was in danger, the entire space channel didn't stop forming, nor did it stop penetrating. Xiaohua's broken body drifted further and further in this stormy world's law battle. Every time he drifted a certain distance, his physical body would disappear a little. However, the strange thing is, just like when Xiaohua's physical body was destroyed by the immortal shuttle in human form, not a single drop of blood flowed out from Xiaohua's physical body. Even the many doppelgangers that existed in Xiaohua's body couldn't be seen. However, Xiaohua clearly felt that whether it was the Feng Wu that was separated from the demon body, the Huang Tong that was separated from the demon body's shadow, the immortal Yun that was separated from the meridians, or even the demon venerable murder that was formed by the blood shadow technique, they all existed in a strange form. They seemed to also be entrusted with the world's law, and also seemed to have become a part of the space. They seemed to have become an existence that even Xiaohua couldn't describe. After an unknown period of time, the pressure between the worlds was so great that Xiaohua's primordial spirit entrustment technique couldn't bear it. Xiaohua's primordial spirit entrustment technique had just reached the next level. Finally, Xiaohua couldn't bear it anymore, but he felt his vision turn black, and he lost consciousness again. Xiaohua was in a predicament. Outside the origin cave, Fire Phoenix King, who had been staying nearby, laughed. He looked at the layers of spatial hurricanes that were several times stronger than before, and he couldn't help but laugh secretly. Phoenix Sage, don't blame me. Who asked you to walk together with Fire Phoenix King? Of course, I didn't hide anything from you. The Swift Cherry Grand Sage asked me to come and explore that place. He wanted to see if you could break into the world from there. This 9 elements realm breaking is also formed naturally. It's the shock before the world passage is formed. As for where this space passage leads to, the Swift Cherry Grand Sage didn't say, and I don't know either. However, I do know that the 9 elements realm breaking force is not something that any great saint of the demon clan can withstand. Even the Xian Grand Sage and the Swift Cherry Grand Sage can't. Therefore, even if you can avoid the shock of the world passage, you can't return to the 10,000 demon realm. Oh, even if you can return to the 10,000 demon realm, so what? Everything is your own choice. What does it have to do with me? I still have to find a chance to tell the Swift Cherry Grand Sage about this. Maybe. Thinking of this, a faint smile appeared on Fire Phoenix King's face. As the smile appeared, Fire Phoenix King spread her wings. Her demon body broke into the void and disappeared. Fire Phoenix King left. In another world far away, in a dense forest, the calm space suddenly began to swell. It was as if a huge flame was burning in the void. Then, the swell expanded uncontrollably. The ancient trees within 100 miles were all turned into powder by the swell. After half a cup of tea's worth of time, a strange sound came out from the drum. Poof! The oppressive sound of something breaking through the air rang out again. Xiaohua's broken body flew out from the void like a meteor streaking across the sky, crashing into a mountain range in the distance. Behind Xiaohua, a wave of remnant world passage like a scythe cut through the forest, the hills, and even the towering mountains. Wherever the world passage passed, everything was destroyed and annihilated. Boom boom boom. As for Xiaohua, he broke through more than 10 mountains. Finally, at the edge of the destruction of the world passage, he fell into an extremely hidden mountain range. At this time, the mountain range was shrouded in darkness. There was not a trace of starlight in the sky. The brilliance of Xiaohua breaking through the world passage was just a flash. The sound was earth-shattering, but this place was obviously a barren place. It did not attract much attention. When the world passage of the 10,000 demon realm was destroyed by the unknown world passage, everything was hidden in darkness. Darkness, other than darkness, there was only darkness. Gift it, and thank you for all your support. Chapter 48-46. Unknowingly, Xiaohua had woken up. He could no longer sense where his physical body was. All he could see was darkness. Xiaohua couldn't figure out if he had broken the boundary, or if he had already fallen, or if he was still floating in the void. In short, everything was dark. Other than his spirit being lively and his thoughts being agile, he couldn't sense anything else. Damn it! Xiaohua couldn't help but curse, why am I so embarrassed every time I break the boundary? I heard from that Xia Tong, who was only an Earth stage powerhouse, broke the boundary so elegantly that there was no obstruction at all. Why am I so unlucky? Right, easily went from the 10,000 demon realm to the Dawn Rain continent. Xiaohua, a dignified great sage of the human race, actually had such twists and turns. Where is the justice? After complaining for a moment, Xiaohua hurriedly looked for Huang Tong and Feng Wu, where the space was. Unfortunately, this time was different from the last time when he went from the 3 continents to the 10,000 demon realm. Xiaohua himself didn't have any dizziness, but his spirit had long been exhausted. Since his physical body couldn't sense it, Huang Tong and Feng Wu's doppelgangers were also nowhere to be found. As for the space, Xiaohua vaguely sensed some aura, but his spirit couldn't touch it. The space seemed to be lost in the gap between the 10,000 demon realm and this unknown world. It was still floating in the vast power of the world. What was even more strange was that Xiaohua couldn't clearly perceive the location of his Naiwen Palace, Middle Dantian, and Lower Dantian. He also didn't know the situation of his nebula nascent soul and hundreds of scattered nascent souls. Damn it. Xiaohua cursed again. He was extremely speechless. If it's cultivation or seclusion, I'm not afraid of such a scene. I'll just treat it as falling into the heavens prison again. But this kind of floating in the void takes time. I can wait, but the 3 continents can't. A 10,000 demon realm took a few decades. I don't have much time left. Moreover, I still don't know where I am. The void? If so, how can I get out of the void? How can I find the space passage to the Dawn Rain continent? Thinking of this, Xiaohua once again felt hatred in his heart. Damned Fire Phoenix King, he actually dared to plot against me. His thoughts were the same as Fire Phoenix King's. After all, Fire Phoenix King didn't hide anything, and even said that this place was extremely dangerous. Everything he thought of was just a guess. Even if that's the case, he still has the intention to kill me. Xiaohua coldly snorted, if I can't reach the Dawn Rain continent this time and return to the 10,000 demon realm, I will be the first to kill Fire Phoenix King. Next, I'll interrogate the Swift Cherry Grand Sage. However, there was no panacea for regret in this world. Xiaohua merely thought about it. For a cultivator with principles like him, unless it was the last moment, he might not be able to force others to do something. Another dozen or so days passed and Xiaohua began to sense his body. Strands of heaven and earth yuan qi slowly gathered and strands of flesh and blood began to take shape. This made Xiaohua feel somewhat at ease. This was because the presence of heaven and earth yuan qi meant that the possibility of him being in the void was reduced. But at the same time, because he wasn't in the void, Xiaohua could only be in another unknown world. If Xiaohua wanted to return to the 10,000 demon realm, it would be equally difficult. Xiaohua's divine sense had been born, but the speed of growth was extremely slow. It was as if the divine sense had been attacked by the laws of two different worlds and was seriously injured. However, Xiaohua clearly sensed that this reborn divine sense was incomparably thick and contained the obscure laws of heaven and earth. Compared to the previous divine sense, not only was there a difference in quantity, but there were even some changes in essence. Since his divine sense could be released, although it wasn't far, Xiaohua could already understand the situation he was in. This was a place that seemed to be covered with mountain rocks. These mountain rocks were much larger than what Xiaohua usually saw. Many of them were still neat, like a collapsed house. And Xiaohua was lying between the cracks of the rocks, and his head was facing down. However, this wasn't the most serious thing. The most serious thing was Xiaohua's body. Xiaohua's body was almost completely collapsed, and now it was rapidly being reconstructed under the influence of heaven and earth yuan qi. However, without Feng Wu's blood essence, Xiaohua's body reconstruction relied on heaven and earth yuan qi, and the speed was too slow. This trip to the 10,000 demon realm has cost me a lot. Xiaohua thought with a wry smile, not to mention other things, just my body has been destroyed twice. Especially under the attack of the immortal messenger's human form, my soul was almost destroyed. If this Xiao didn't hide my primordial spirit in the space, if the immortal shuttle didn't leave this Xiao's body, the consequences would be unimaginable. This time, this Xiao's body seems to be slowly recovering, and there won't be any major problems. But what about Huang Tong, Feng Wu, and the others? They won't be destroyed, right? Thinking of this, Xiaohua curled his lips again. Feng Wu had the heavenly phoenix. Even if Xiaohua's soul was destroyed, that guy wouldn't be destroyed. Since Feng Wu would be fine, Huang Tong and Thunder Immortal would also be fine, right? The problem is... Xiaohua was puzzled. Where did they go? Could it be that they were separated from this Xiao? In another few hundred years, thousands of years, will they appear in the immortal realm, in the Demon League? And this Xiao's space has also been lost. Do I have to find it again? While his thoughts were running wild, Xiaohua spent a few more days. Although there was heaven and earth yuan qi, there was no sun or moon. Xiaohua already had a judgment in his heart, and he couldn't help but start to calculate again, this unknown world. Sigh, if there is no accident, it should be the night spirit world. From here to the Dawn Rain continent, I don't know if there is any space passage, and I don't know what night spirit I will encounter. If this Xiao wants to rush back to the Dawn Rain continent as soon as possible, I'm afraid there will be some problems. At this moment, Xiaohua's divine sense could already extend for several kilometers. Just as he was thinking, Xiaohua was stunned again. Because wherever his divine sense reached, there were actually some indistinct and tough restrictions that blocked his divine sense. Moreover, the fluctuations produced by these restrictions were very familiar to Xiaohua. It was the fluctuations of a Dao formation. It can't be. How can there be a Dao formation in the night spirit world? Could this be the Dawn Rain continent? Oh, no matter what, this is the Dao celestial world. Xiaohua was excited, but in a moment, he was disheartened again. It can't be the Dawn Rain continent, because the Swift Cherry Grand Sage said clearly that there is only one space passage from the 10,000 demon world to the Dawn Rain continent, and this Xiao obviously entered 9. Moreover, from the power of this restriction, the person who set up the formation seems to have strength beyond the 9th grade of essence Qi. The Dawn Rain continent, or even the Immortal Alliance, it is unlikely that there is such a cultivator. It can only be the 10,000 demon world, or the night spirit world, or the Dao celestial world, where the laws of heaven and earth are higher than the Dawn Rain continent, where there is such a cultivator. No, it seems that the laws of the Dao celestial world are also lower than the 10,000 demon world. This world is most likely the night spirit world. Of course, if I want to see if it is the Dawn Rain continent, I just need to see if there is any change in the heaven and earth yuan qi. Unfortunately, this Xiao doesn't have any divine ability now, and can't sense space. How can I check? This Xiao's life is bitter. Boom! Boom! Just as Xiao Hua was complaining, a series of rumbling sounds resounded from outside the restriction. Huh, there is someone. Oh, it could also be the night spirit world's demon spirits breaking the formation. Xiao Hua was overjoyed. He knew in his heart that he probably broke through the space outside the world and attracted the attention of others. Since there is a human or demon spirit, no matter what it is a joyous matter for Xiao Hua. The worst thing is that Xiao Hua can ask a simple question, unlike the 10,000 demon world, where he flew from the edge of the wasteland to the seaside like a headless fly. If his luck was bad and he changed direction, he would probably still be flying towards the edge of the world, right? Unfortunately, the roar sounded very weak, and after a dozen or so times, it disappeared again. Damn it, you have some perseverance. Xiao Hua was a bit anxious. If he had the ability, he would have definitely grabbed the humans or demon spirits outside the restriction and told them the story of confidence. Fortunately, a few days later, there was another roar, and this time it lasted for a long time. The movement was also bigger. Hee, looks like I found a helper. Xiao Hua happily lay inside the restriction, waiting for the human or demon race outside to break in. After a while, Xiao Hua's eyes swiveled around again, and he mused, damn it, this Xiao's wretched appearance is truly somewhat shameful. Although I don't know how the night spirit world's demon spirits can see other people's appearance, this Xiao's original appearance is quite inappropriate. I might as well use another appearance first. Although Xiao Hua's Fa Li has not recovered, the transformation technique of Qingqiu Mountain is also wonderful. Xiao Hua did not need to use too many methods to turn into Zhang Xiaohua with a small nose and small eyes. Of course, this rustic Zhang Xiaohua appearance is now slowly growing flesh and blood. Unfortunately, Xiaohua still thought too much, but in the time it takes to eat a meal, the roar disappeared again. Xiaohua almost jumped out of the crack in the stone. This feeling of giving hope and then extinguishing it really made him feel very disappointed. That's not right. Xiaohua suddenly thought of something and secretly cursed. This seal was set up by a cultivator who has surpassed the 9th level of elemental energy. In other words, this seal is comparable to a great saint from the 10,000 demon realm. This kind of seal breaking doesn't seem like a great saint from the demon realm. It's not even a sun realm expert. How could they break the seal? Sigh, at the crucial moment, no one can be relied on, not to mention these night spirit world's demon spirits. Even this Xiao's doppelganger is not enough, I still have to rely on myself. At this time, he was clear about his situation, and Xiao Hua no longer looked around, retracted his divine sense, and began to use the techniques that could be used to speed up the recovery of his body, wanting to recover as soon as possible. Chapter 48-47. However, contrary to Xiao Hua's expectations, the body repair that he thought was not difficult was now extremely difficult to do. His flesh and blood were like tender shoots growing, slowly and slowly, far from the refreshing feeling he had in the 10,000 demon realm. How is this possible? Xiao Hua was a little surprised, and hurriedly urged his divine sense to explore the nearby world's origin qi. That's not right, this restriction doesn't seem to be blocking world's origin qi, and the world's origin qi within the restriction is also extremely abundant. However, the world's origin qi did not rush into Xiao Hua's body like before to repair his body. Strange. Could it be that my injuries are too serious? Or my body is too strange, and this simple cultivation method can't repair it? Xiao Hua thought while releasing his divine sense to carefully explore. After observing for a few days, Xiao Hua finally had some understanding, and an indescribable feeling emerged from the bottom of his heart, either proud or regretful. I understand. I am originally a demigod, and my primordial spirit is entrusted to the world's origin chi. After my body was destroyed, the world's origin chi is far from enough to repair it. From my divine sense, it seems that the world's origin chi is repairing, but in fact, it is the world's origin chi that is repairing. In other words, my current body is similar to Panga's axe. In this unknown world, whether it is divine sense or the naked eye, it looks like a complete body, but in fact, it is just an outline. In the upper realm, only lines can be seen, and it is not a real body. It is also because the world's origin chi is repairing the body that it is so slow. Knowing the reason for the slow repair of his body, Xiaofan was not in a hurry, and slowly urged his cultivation method to repair it. After more than 100 days, Xiaofan's body could be considered to have been repaired successfully. This barely naturally meant that he could move, and he could barely use some small skills. As for the great sage of the human race, there was still a long way to go. At this time, Xiaofan wanted to continue repairing his body, but a strange situation appeared. This was because when his physical body reached a certain level, his meridians, blood vessels, bones, and other parts of his body began to show other abnormalities. It was as if a seed had sprouted there. His physical body was no longer strengthened, and these parts began to grow rapidly. However, there were many places that required heaven and earth yuan qi. These places were growing at an extremely fast rate, but it was impossible to see any embryonic form in a short period of time. Sensing this abnormality, Xiaohua's heart calmed down again. It seemed like his avatars hadn't been left behind in the void, but had been annihilated by the impact of the laws of the realm. These places must be where his avatars had been annihilated, and now they were reborn in this unknown realm. But that's not right either. Xiaohua still had some doubts. For example, the thunderclap immortal was comprehending the boundary laws in his lower dantian. Was he still in his lower dantian? For example, Reverend Yun's dragon body was formed from the dragon cleansing liquid in the dragon realm. If he formed another dragon body in the nameless realm now, wouldn't it be incomparable to his previous dragon body? For example, Demon Sovereign Shi was a demon spirit with a demon body. How could he condense a demon body in this nameless world? Could it be that it's not just my physical body that has been constructed by the laws of heaven and earth, but the bodies of my other avatars also need to be constructed by the laws of heaven and earth? If that's the case, they've all become bodies of the laws of heaven and earth. Can they still be considered my clones? Although there were many questions in his mind that he couldn't get the answers he wanted, as long as all his avatars were still here, Xiaohua was satisfied. He pulled his avatars out from the crack, somersaulted and landed on a rock he had chosen earlier. After that, he gave the darkness around him a quick glance, then walked towards a spot in the distance. During the past 100 days, the demon spirits had come a few more times. Needless to say, all of them came back empty-handed. In recent days, they had stopped coming. It looked like even the demon spirits in the night spirit realm would lose their confidence. Actually, Xiaohua had already swept through this restriction many times before this, and he'd already understood that this restriction was actually incomplete. Moreover, it was filled with an indescribable might, and it was precisely this might that caused Xiaohua to be unable to determine exactly what sort of formation this restriction was. Because there was a flaw, and Xiaohua was still inside the formation, although Xiaohua hadn't recovered his divine ability yet, as a Dao League's formation master, Xiaohua could still easily break the formation. After walking a distance without much effort, Xiaohua reached a spot in the restrictive formation. Xiaohua stretched out his hand and grabbed at the darkness. Then, he saw that the black shadow had traces of distortion under the huge force. When Xiaohua reached out again, boom! The space around him began to collapse. Following the collapse, swish! A glaring ray of sunlight shone down, shining on Xiaohua's naked, scarred body. Xiaohua calculated for a long time, but he really didn't expect that in this unknown realm, he would see sunlight the moment he appeared. Moreover, the sunlight was very glaring. This was obviously not the night spirit realm. Since it wasn't the night spirit realm, then what realm could it be? He couldn't help but be surprised, and his eyes naturally closed. Unfortunately, before Xiaohua could use his divine sense to look around, a very rough voice came from afar. "Hey, you! You actually dared to touch my banner, quickly return it." Banner? Xiaohua didn't have time to think about how he could understand the voice in the distance. He was only stunned for a moment, then he hurriedly released his divine sense. What made Xiaohua even more embarrassed was that before he could see what the banner looked like, he immediately sensed the naked body around him. Without thinking too much, he used the banner in his hand to cover his vital parts. At this moment, Xiaohua was incomparably glad. Long before he broke the restrictive formation, he changed his appearance to Zhang Xiaohua. Otherwise, wouldn't his face as a great sage of the human race be completely shattered? Before Xiaohua realized that Zhang Xiaohua was actually his original appearance, he heard swish, swish, swish. Several sounds broke through the air. In his divine sense, he actually saw 4 human cultivators surrounding him, and there was even a woman among them. At the same time, 3 strands of divine perception cautiously scanned Xiaohua's surroundings for a moment, and then that voice cried out once more. "Fellow, this place was discovered by my martial nephew earlier. We've already been here breaking through the formation for many days. Quickly return that banner to me, and I'll spare your life. Otherwise..." Not waiting for that man to finish speaking, Xiaohua very shyly replied, "Fellow Daoist, this humble Daoist is actually very willing to return this banner to fellow Daoist right now, but the question is, does this female fellow Daoist agree or not?" As Xiaohua spoke, he closed his eyes and faced the female cultivator who deliberately landed in front of him. "Bah!" The unknown female cultivator spat and reminded him, "Senior Martial Brother Hong, it's better to be careful. I heard Junior Apprentice Brother Lu say that he tried to break the formation a few times but failed. This formation is obviously no small matter. But look, this cultivator who doesn't seem to have much cultivation base actually used a banner to break a part of the formation. I'm afraid his strength is even higher than ours." At this point, the female cultivator couldn't help but change the topic and asked, "Junior Martial Brother Lu, do you have extra clothes? I see that his figure is similar to yours. What bullshit strength." Another voice sounded again. This voice was a bit thin. If he had strength, wouldn't he transform into a crude set of clothes? That wouldn't consume much magic power. "Hee, that's true." A rough voice sounded. At the same time, Xiaohua also had the same thought in his heart, "Hee, that's true." Xiaohua previously only thought about transforming his appearance and didn't care about his physical body. Previously, when he just came out of the formation and faced the sunlight, he very naturally used the banner to cover his vital parts. He also didn't think that he would use magic power to transform. Now that he transformed again, he felt that it was a bit too obvious. Since he could transform, why didn't he transform earlier? If he transformed again now, wouldn't that be taking liberties with the female cultivator? What was special was that Xiaohua had already distinguished that the language these cultivators spoke was similar to Xiaoyu continent. Xiaohua also had the mood to mix with these low-level cultivators. "Senior Martial Brothers, don't be careless." Finally, a slightly refined voice sounded. "My disciple Yi Qing happened to pass by the vicinity before the new year and suddenly heard a strange sound. He thought that some strange treasure was born. He hurriedly rushed over to investigate. But at that time, light and shadow were unceasing, and a kind of vast and enormous force that he couldn't fundamentally describe flooded the area. He couldn't even approach within 100 miles. After waiting for more than 100 days, that vast power of heaven and earth slowly dissipated again. And at this time, he discovered that the nearby mountain peaks and forests were all destroyed. It looked like a powerful magical treasure had come into being, destroying everything. However, just like what Junior Marshall Brother said before, he didn't find anything special. He only saw in this hidden place this unbreakable formation. As he spoke, the voice paused as if he was pointing at something in the distance and explained, "Senior Apprentice Brothers, you all saw it when you came here. All the traces of destruction show that if a magic treasure was born, it could only land in this formation. Therefore, when my disciple failed to break the formation, he returned to the mountain and secretly told Junior Marshall Brother." "Junior Marshall Brother Qingyu, didn't you just say all this?" that rough voice asked curiously. "Saying it again, are you afraid that Senior Marshall Brothers will forget?" The Junior Marshall Brother named Lu Qingyu smiled bitterly and said, "Senior Marshall Brother Hong, Junior Marshall Brothers' meaning is, what if it wasn't a magic treasure that was born, but a person?" "A person? How could a person be born?" Senior Marshall Brother Hong scratched his head, very puzzled. However, after a short moment, he seemed to have thought of something. He looked in astonishment at Xiaofan, who had already slowly narrowed his eyes to look at him, and even looked past him to look at the surroundings. He couldn't help but cry out, "Junior Brother Qingyu, are you talking about this person?" Chapter 48. The female cultivator was also silent at this time. She looked at Xiaofan up and down very quickly and said, "Junior Brother Lu is right. This cultivator doesn't seem to have any cultivation base, but his body has scars and his muscles are strong. He's much stronger than ordinary cultivators. He actually broke the formation that you couldn't break." "No, I don't believe it." Another cultivator still shook his head. How could a powerful cultivator come to this remote place? Lu Qingyu seemed to be somewhat disappointed and said in a low voice, "Senior Brother Zhang, if there isn't a powerful cultivator, who laid this formation? I say, everyone, can you give me some clothes to wear?" Xiaofan didn't know whether to laugh or cry after listening for a moment. His eyes had already adapted to the sunlight. He looked up at Lu Qingyu and asked, "The weather is very cold. You have the nerve to criticize me and let me stand in the cold wind like this?" Lu Qingyu was a tall and thin cultivator. He wore clothes similar to Confucian cultivators and looked very gentle. Sorry. Although he didn't know Xiaohua's origin, Lu Qingyu still showed a smile on his face. As he spoke, he used his right hand to brush a ring on his left thumb and took out some clothes. He shook his hand and was about to throw them over. However, the moment the clothes left his hand, Lu Qingyu hesitated. However, he only hesitated for a moment. Lu Qingyu didn't pour magic power into the clothes and easily threw them into Xiaohua's hands. Oh! Xiaohua took the clothes and suddenly felt good about Lu Qingyu. Although he didn't mind Lu Qingyu's probing, this trust made him very happy. Just as Xiaohua shook the clothes and was about to put them on, Senior Brother Zhang said in a low voice, "Fellow Taoist, you just said that you would return the banner to us after getting the clothes." "Oh? Did I say that?" Xiaohua tilted his head and asked with a smile. "Why didn't you say that?" Senior Brother Hong shouted, "You just said that you would give it to us, but you were afraid that junior sister you wouldn't agree." "Yes, this junior sister you. Would she agree?" Xiaohua asked again. "How could junior sister you not agree?" Senior Brother Hong didn't understand the meaning behind Xiaohua's words at all, and said anxiously, "Don't you think so, Yuehua?" The junior martial sister named Yuehua rolled her eyes at Senior Martial Brother Hong, then turned around and said, "Fellow Taoist, put on your clothes first." "Don't." Senior Brother Hong panicked. "He clearly promised that as long as you agreed, he would give the banner to us." Seeing that Yuehua had turned around, Xiaohua shook his robe and casually put it on. Lu Qingyu's figure looked somewhat similar to Xiao Hua's, but in fact, he was a bit shorter. The clothes were quite awkward on Xiao Hua's body. Fortunately, Xiao Hua could already use the transformation technique at this time, and his figure became slightly shorter, so he could wear it. After putting on his clothes, Xiao Hua squinted his eyes and looked around. At this moment, Xiao Hua only had one feeling: small. The world was small, the mountain was small, the forest was small, even the 4 cultivators in front of him were pitifully small. Alas, the demon spirits in the 10,000 demon realm are easily hundreds of feet. This Xiao Hua also had a golden body of thousands of feet in the 10,000 demon realm, but here, it's only about 10 feet. No wonder everything is not pleasing to the eye. Xiao Hua sighed slightly, retracted his gaze, and fell on Yu Hua in front of him. It was not that he was frivolous, because in front of him, there was only Yu Hua's back. Senior Marshal Brother Hong and Lu Qingyu were on his left and right, and that Senior Marshal Brother Zhang was behind him, standing above the restriction. Yu Hua's back looked a bit graceful, and she was wearing a kind of beautiful clothes, which was somewhat different from the female cultivators in the Xiaoyu continent. Her black hair was casually tied into a heart shape, and it was pinned behind her head with a hair bun, covering her snow-white neck. "Fellow Taoist, are you dressed?" Yu Hua asked softly. "I'm already dressed, you can turn around." Xiao Hua replied with a smile. Yu Hua turned around. Bai Jing's simple and elegant appearance did not disappoint Xiao Hua, and when Yu Hua saw Xiao Hua's gaze, her face inexplicably blushed, and her gaze flickered as she looked away, which made Xiao Hua's heart skip a beat. He instantly understood that he had cultivated the secret technique of Qingqiu sect. His appearance might not have changed, but his temperament had long changed. The temptation of this big change was so great that even Fairy Xingyu said it was powerful, let alone this middle-stage gold-core female cultivator in front of him. Before, when he didn't open his eyes, Yu Hua didn't feel anything special, but now, under his bright eyes, Yu Hua didn't dare to look at him. Thinking of this, Xiao Hua hurriedly turned around, looked at Senior Marshal Brother Hong, and said, "Fellow Taoist Hong, right?" Senior Marshal Brother Hong was a man like a black tower. His body was thick, and it matched his voice very well. At this time, when he heard Xiao Hua's words, he couldn't help but feel close to him, and he hurriedly replied, "Yes, I'm Hong Feng." Xiao Hua waved the banner in his hand and said with a smile, "You want this banner?" "Yes." Hong Feng replied without hesitation, "Junior Marshal Brother Lu hasn't been able to break this formation for many days. It must be an extremely powerful formation. Our Chanhe sect needs this kind of formation to protect our sect." Senior Marshal Brother Hong. Lu Qingyu heard Hong Feng's honest answer, and he didn't even have the slightest intention of keeping it a secret, and he couldn't help but feel anxious. Xiao Hua also didn't deliberately activate his divine ability, so Hong Feng suddenly realized and hurriedly looked at Lu Qingyu. "Oh, what's wrong? There are some things that shouldn't be said, so don't say it." Senior Marshal Brother Zhang's voice sounded from behind. "Okay." Hong Feng agreed, but he looked at Xiao Hua thoughtlessly and said, "Can you give this flag to us?" Xiao Hua looked at this man with a smile. He had a kind of expectation in his heart. He really wanted to know if this world was the Tao Celestial Realm, if it was the Failure Immortal Alliance, and then ask about the location of the Million Meng Mountains. However, he suddenly turned around and looked at Senior Marshal Brother Zhang, who was in mid-air. Senior Marshal Brother Zhang was a short and thin old man. His eyes shone brightly, and he was obviously a shrewd person. However, when Xiao Hua spoke, Senior Marshal Brother Zhang lost his usual shrewdness. Xiao Hua asked, "What is fellow Taoist Zhang's name?" "I am Zhang Ji, a disciple of Chanhe sect's Yulan Hall." Zhang Ji was even more serious than Hong Feng, and he answered every question. Behind Xiao Hua, Yue Hua, and beside him, Lu Qingyu were shocked. They looked at each other and couldn't help but take a few steps back. Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. Xiaohua turned his head slightly and looked at Yuehua with a smile. I'm just casually asking, I don't mean any harm. Yuehua couldn't help but close her eyes. Xiaohua's smile was so charming that she couldn't help but want to speak. However, Xiaohua didn't ask Yuehua, but asked Zhangji, Zhangji, let me ask you, do you know the Failure Immortal Alliance? Failure Immortal Alliance? Zhangji was stunned and shook his head like a rattle drum. I don't know, I don't know. Hiss. Xiaohua's heart turned cold, and he hurriedly asked, then. Is this the Dao Heaven Realm? Dao Heaven Realm? What is that place? Zhangji didn't understand and asked curiously. Xiaohua rolled his eyes and immediately understood. Zhangji was only a golden core cultivator. How could he know the information about the realm? Thus, he smiled and said, then. This place, oh, this continent, what is its name? Oh, so that's what you are asking. Zhangji suddenly understood and said with a smile, this place is naturally the Yilan continent. Don't tell me you don't know. Hearing this, Lu Qingyu's face changed dramatically. He seemed to have thought of something. He raised his hand, and his finger touched the ring on his finger. His teeth were also biting his lips, as if he was extremely vigilant. Xiaohua's heart instantly fell into an ice cellar. He had already realized the seriousness of the matter. If this Yilan continent wasn't the other side of the Dawn Rain continent, and it wasn't the Dao Heaven Realm, then he would have to find the space passage to the Dawn Rain continent again. And with his current situation, how could he have enough time? Xiaohua thought for a moment and asked again, do you know why this place is called the Yilan continent? The shape of the continent is like a qilin, but it's also different from a qilin, so it's called the Yilan continent. Zhangji answered without hesitation. Do you know the Dawn Rain continent? Xiaohua probed. Sure enough, Zhangji still shook his head. What about Million Meng Mountains? Xiaohua didn't dare to ask this last question. I don't know. Zhangji shook his head, extinguishing Xiaohua's last hope. Damn it! Xiaohua couldn't help but curse. That. At this moment, Yuehua behind Xiaohua seemed to feel the disappointment in his heart and hurriedly said, I know. In the distant southeast, there seems to be a place called Wumeng Mountain Range. What did you say? Yuehua's words were like the sound of nature. When Xiaohua heard it, he immediately turned around with a face full of ecstasy. I read from the sect's records that in the southeast direction of the Yilan continent, there's an extremely dangerous place called Wumeng Mountain Range. Yuehua answered carefully, but I don't know if it's the same as Million Meng Mountains. Both sides have the word Meng. Ha ha ha. Xiaohua laughed loudly, his body somersaulted a few times in the air before he landed and asked, then do you know what's on the other side of Wumeng Mountain Range? Seeing Xiaohua so excited, Yuehua was so excited that her nose turned red. However, she still shook her head honestly and said, I don't know what's on the other side of Wumeng Mountain Range. There's no record of it in the sect's records. If you want to know, you might have to go to the Fallen Immortal sect and ask. Fallen Immortal sect? Xiaohua smiled. He really wanted to ask, but he swallowed the words back down. His strength hadn't recovered yet, how could he ask? Asking too much now would only make him look timid. Thank you, Fairy Yu, I'll give this banner to you. Xiaohua smiled and raised his hand to give the banner to her. Yuehua's face turned even redder. She took the banner, bowed and said, thank you, fellow cultivator. Chapter 48-49. Fellow Taoist is really straightforward, I like it very much. Seeing Xiaohua give the banner to Yuehua without saying a word, Hongfeng laughed and cupped his hands. I haven't asked for fellow Daoist's name yet. He, I'm Zhang Xiaohua. Xiaohua smiled and cupped his hands in return. At this time, he simply didn't call himself old man and didn't reveal his real name. So it's fellow Daoist Zhang, I'm sorry for not recognizing you. Lu Qingyu also smiled and cupped his hands, asking, may I know where fellow Daoist Zhang is from? Naturally from where I came from. Xiaohua didn't say it directly and covered it up. Master. Before Zhang Ji could greet him, a tall and handsome Foundation establishment cultivator in the distance rushed over on a flying sword and shouted loudly, how's the situation? Did the array? Before the cultivator finished speaking, he had already noticed Xiaohua, who was still surrounded by Zhang Ji and the others. He immediately shut up and was about to turn around and escape. Just as his figure paused, he saw the banner in Yu Hua's hand and the clothes on Xiaohua's body. He seemed to understand something. Although he slowed down his flying speed, he still flew over steadily. Lu Qingyu saw the cultivator coming over and a smile appeared in his eyes. He said to Xiaohua, this is the inferior disciple I just mentioned, Nuo Yeqing. Then, he shouted to Nuo Yeqing, quickly come over and greet Senior Zhang. Yes, master. Nuo Yeqing hurriedly landed and respectfully saluted Xiaohua. Get up. Xiaohua raised his hand and motioned for Nuo Yeqing to get up. However, he looked at Nuo Yeqing's appearance and was somewhat puzzled. Because when Nuo Yeqing just appeared, he felt a slightly familiar aura on Nuo Yeqing's body. As for what kind of aura it was, Xiaohua himself didn't know. But looking at Nuo Yeqing's appearance, it was completely unfamiliar. He had never seen it before. After Nuo Yeqing saluted, she curiously looked at Xiaohua and hurriedly walked to Lu Qingyu's side, whispering, Master, it seems that you've succeeded. Could it be that Senior Zhang helped you? What are you doing here? Lu Qingyu said with a frown. Our Yulan Hall has been busy these past few days. Your master and your martial uncles came out, and were afraid that the hall master would be looking for you, so we specially left you in the hall. The palace master was having a headache, so he dismissed the disciples early in the afternoon. Seeing that the palace master was fine, I slipped out. Nuo Yeqing blinked her eyes. Seeing that Lu Qingyu didn't talk about the sex affairs behind Xiaohua's back, she was rather puzzled. Just as Nuo Yeqing finished speaking, Zhang Ji became anxious and urged, Junior brother Lu, let's do it quickly. The hall master had a headache before noon and would flip out at night. It's our turn to have a headache. Let's hurry back. All right. Lu Qingyu nodded slightly at Xiaohua. His figure flew to the top of the restriction formation, and pointed at a place with his finger. Previously, I attacked here, but it didn't have any effect. Now that fellow Zhang has broken a corner of the formation, the other places should be easy to deal with. Let's start from the collapsed corner. Following Lu Qingyu's instructions, Hong Feng, Zhang Ji, and Nuo Yeqing all flew over. Yuehua was not in a hurry. Instead, she flew to Xiaohua, lowered her head, and said, Fellow Zhang, if we can't break the restriction formation, please help us again. This formation is very important to us. I know, you can go. Xiaohua smiled slightly and didn't say much. However, just these few words made Yuehua, a Jindan stage cultivator, unable to help but feel her heart jump. Not to mention Yuehua and the other Jindan stage cultivators working together to break the formation, Xiaohua walked a few laps on the left side and released his divine sense to look at the desolate scenery around him. After thinking for a moment, he slowly walked back to the mountain peak. The celestial Tao world was a strange place for Xiaohua. Although he was somewhat sure that this celestial Tao world was the other side of the Dawn Rain continent, he couldn't be sure after all. He still had to rely on these so-called disciples of the Chan He sect in front of him. Xiaohua returned to his original place. Nearly an hour had passed. Whether it was Zhang Ji, Lu Qingyu, or even Hong Feng, who had the best cultivation, their foreheads were all sweating. However, when they looked at the formation that they worked together to attack, except for the flaw that Xiao Hua revealed when he took away a banner, there were no other abnormalities. Looking at the people breaking the formation, Xiao Hua's heart was a little complicated. Because at this time, although he didn't use any magic, he could clearly see everyone's cultivation. It was as if everyone's cultivation was revealed in front of him without any cover. Then, Xiao Hua looked at the mountain peak, the trees, and even looked up at the sky and looked down at the earth. At this time, in his eyes, the whole world was completely different from before. Previously, he saw the mountain as a mountain and the water as water. Now, the mountain wasn't a mountain and the water wasn't water. It was as if everything in his eyes was a kind of outline or the existence of laws. As for Xiao Hua himself, although he was different from all of this, Xiao Hua believed that as long as he was willing, he could perfectly integrate with all of this, possess all of this, and control all of this. Perhaps this is a sign that my primordial spirit and trusting technique has reached a higher level. Xiao Hua understood and couldn't help but be secretly happy. I have entrusted my primordial spirit to the law of the realm, and I have become the law of the realm. Everything in this realm is under this law, so I can naturally control all of this. This realm seems to have been mentioned in Xian Hong's discussion in the Star Moon Palace. It should be the magic of a demigod or nihility god. Xiao Hua thought as he walked closer. His eyes fell on the magic array in the distance. At this time, the magic array in Xiao Hua's eyes was no longer the same as before. However, he still couldn't see any clues at a glance. This was enough to show how powerful this magic array was. At this time, Nuo Yeqing and Yu Hua were already resting on a rock nearby. Their eyes were filled with helplessness, but more than that, there was a kind of ecstasy. The more solid the magic array was, the more powerful it was. Moreover, Yu Hua had an inexplicable belief in Xiao Hua. Zhang Ji and the others might not be able to break the magic array, but wasn't there still Xiao Hua? Seeing that Xiao Hua was walking back, Yu Hua gave Nuo Yeqing a slight look. Nuo Yeqing shrugged her shoulders and hurriedly jumped down from the rock. She didn't use the flying technique and flew in front of Xiao Hua. She said respectfully, "Junior greets Senior Zhang." Xiao Hua had an inexplicable good impression of Nuo Yeqing. He said with a smile, "One who is unaccountably solicitous is hiding evil intentions." Senior is wise and far-sighted. You can see this junior's thoughts at a glance. Nuo Yeqing said with a smile, "However, this junior is happy to steal something for the sect." Suddenly, Xiao Hua seemed to wake up. Why did he have a familiar feeling with Nuo Yeqing? Nuo Yeqing's shy face and cheap expression, wasn't it somewhat similar to Xiang Zhili's? And Hong Feng's simple and honest appearance, wasn't it somewhat similar to Xiang Yang's? A kind of longing and nostalgia for a long time couldn't help but surge in Xiao Hua's heart. "It seems that you want me to help you break the magic array?" Xiao Hua asked kindly. Of course. Nuo Yeqing nodded her head like a chicken pecking rice. "If Senior can help, that would be the best. This junior will be very grateful." "Well said." Xiao Hua pinched his chin and asked, "If I can break the magic array, what benefits will I get?" "The benefits are great." Nuo Yeqing said casually, "Good wine and good meat. As long as Senior likes it, this junior will give it to you." Seeing that Nuo Yeqing's character was really similar to Xiang Zhili's, Xiao Hua couldn't help but laugh. He looked at Nuo Yeqing and said, "Fairy Yu, show me the banner." Seeing Nuo Yeqing being so impudent, Nuo Yeqing's heart was sweating. It was just as Lu Qingyu said. She couldn't see through this unprepossessing cultivator in front of her at all. Maybe he really was a senior expert. Ordinary people would be too late to be respectful to him, so how could he joke around? However, Xiaohua didn't put on any airs. He seemed to like joking with Nuo Yeqing, so Nuo Yeqing's heart was relieved. When she heard Xiaohua looking at her, Nuo Yeqing didn't dare to be negligent. She hurriedly responded and took out the banner from an emerald green jade bracelet on her wrist. She respectfully handed it over. Xiaohua just casually pulled out the banner and didn't take it seriously. Now that he looked at it carefully, he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. This banner was only a few feet in size. There was a star engraved on it. This star was surrounded by a smoke-like halo, which covered most of the banner. The rest of the flag was blank until the edge of the flag was covered in star patterns. At this time, the banner was already damaged. There were traces of lightning strikes on the edges. Most of the star patterns were destroyed by the so-called lightning strikes. The star halos in the center of the banner also had dozens of lightning-like cracks, as if they were pierced by sharp swords. However, where Xiaohua's eyes fell, the fluttering banner flickered slightly, as if there was a three-legged golden crow spirit beast floating up. It was very strange. Fairy Yu, Xiaohua's eyes showed a strange color. He handed the banner to Nuo Yeqing and said, "Use your magic power to see." Okay. Nuo Yeqing already had a lot of trust in Xiaohua. After receiving the banner, she used her magic power. As her magic power passed, the banner emitted a faint brilliance. A three-legged golden crow appeared from the star on the banner. Not only did it block the star and star patterns, but the banner itself was also covered. However, just as the three-legged golden crow appeared, the brilliance immediately converged, revealing the broken star halos. Obviously, it was because Nuo Yeqing didn't have enough magic power. This is the banner of the capital star formation. Xiaohua asserted without hesitation. He raised his eyes and carefully looked at the surrounding mountains. Sure enough, under the mess, Xiaohua found some traces of lightning tribulation. Hong Feng, who was next to him, was even more excited. He shouted, "I was just a Qi refinement kid back then, but I also had a very deep impression of this famous tribulation-passing cultivator from the fallen immortal sect. Back then, it was said that he was one of the Mahayana cultivators most likely to transcend the tribulation in our Fengyan kingdom. No. He is the Mahayana cultivator with the highest chance of transcending the tribulation, not just one of them." Zhang Ji seemed to have heard about spiritual master Huang Qiong as well. He said, "My master even used spiritual master Huang Qiong's story to lecture me. It's a pity that spiritual master Huang Qiong didn't ask the fallen immortal sect's elders to protect him when he transcended the tribulation. In the end, he disappeared without a trace. No one knows if he succeeded or not." Yuehua looked at Xiaohua and then at the formation in the distance. She said softly, "Actually, as far as I know, there's another saying in the fallen immortal sect." Lu Qingyu saw that Yuehua was in a difficult position and didn't dare to continue. He continued, "Junior sister Yuehua is right. There's another saying that spiritual master Huang Qiong failed the tribulation and didn't even enter the tribulation passing stage. This is because after spiritual master Huang Qiong, no other Mahayana cultivator has successfully transcended the tribulation." Xiaohua, who was standing at the side, suddenly turned around and asked, "Why no other Mahayana cultivator has successfully transcended the tribulation? Is it because they weren't prepared enough?" "No." Lu Qingyu explained bitterly, "It's because after spiritual master Huang Qiong transcended the tribulation, the heaven and earth spirit qi suddenly changed." "What? The heaven and earth spirit qi changed?" Although Xiaohua's words were filled with shock and joy, Lu Qingyu and the others were confused. "Yes. Senior Zhang." Yuehua continued, "The Chanhe sect is a small sect. In the past 50,000 years, no disciple has been able to cultivate to the Mahayana realm. Therefore, no disciple has been able to transcend the tribulation. However, according to the news from the other sects in the Fengyan kingdom, after spiritual master Huang Qiong's lightning tribulation, every Mahayana cultivator would be struck by a crimson lightning that had never been seen in the lightning tribulation before. According to the seniors of the other sects, the crimson lightning is the holy lightning tribulation. It's a lightning tribulation that's formed to break free from the body of a demon beast. The holy lightning tribulation specifically targets the body of a demon beast. It's not something a human body can withstand. Therefore, no Mahayana cultivator has been able to transcend the holy lightning tribulation and become a tribulation passing stage cultivator. Hearing this, Xiaohua was certain that the so-called Yilan continent must be the other side of the Dawn Rain continent, which was the continent where the Defeat You Immortal Alliance was located. Then it's been a few hundred years since spiritual master Huang Qiong transcended the tribulation? Xiaohua thought for a moment and asked again. This. Yuehua hesitated as if she was recalling. After a moment, she replied, "It seems to be 600 years ago." When she said 600 years, Yuehua's face suddenly turned red. It seemed that Xiaohua's question had revealed her age. More than 600 years, ah. Xiaohua didn't notice Yuehua's abnormality. Instead, he frowned and calculated in his heart, "I stayed in the Dawn Rain continent for less than 100 years. After arriving at the 3 continents, I first went into seclusion in the West Sea for more than 100 years. Then, I went to the Heaven prison for more than 200 years. After that, I seem to have spent another few decades in the Star Moon Palace. After that, I went to the 10,000 Demon Realm and spent another 20 years. That's about 600 years. The time of the Heaven and Earth Spirit Cheese mutation is exactly the same as the Dawn Rain continent. Alas, if I could be born 1,000 years earlier, I might be able to cultivate to the spirit severing stage. Now it's difficult again." When Xiaohua was thinking, Hong Feng suddenly sighed. Xiaohua had a plan in his heart and was in a good mood. He looked at Hong Feng and said with a smile, "Fellow Taoist, Hong's nature is simple and honest. It's a good material for cultivation. Although your cultivation is shallow now, as long as you cultivate diligently, you can reach the spirit-severing stage. It's even possible for you to step into the void refinement or body integration stage. Senior Zhang, there's something you don't know." Hearing Yuehua call Xiaohua Senior Zhang, Hong Feng didn't dare to neglect and said with a wry smile, "If it was before the spiritual chi of heaven and earth changed, would have such confidence. But now that the world has changed, even condensing a nascent soul requires a thunder tribulation. Which human cultivator dares to say that he can definitely pass this abnormal thunder tribulation?" Is that so?" Xiaohua was surprised and asked curiously, "Could it be that there is a thunder tribulation after the gold core stage?" "It's more than just a thunder tribulation. Although this thunder tribulation is not a holy thunder tribulation, it is still a demonic beast's thunder tribulation. Even if we are a body cultivator, it is impossible for us to pass this kind of thunder tribulation." Lu Qingyu complained. Xiaohua touched his nose and said with a wry smile, "This is troublesome." Needless to say, the Dawn Rain continent was also like this. Xiaohua originally wanted to place Li Xiang, Xiong Yi, and the others in Dawn Rain continent, but since the spiritual energy of heaven and earth mutated and gave birth to such a strange lightning tribulation, Li Xiang, Xiong Yi, and the others, how could they smoothly cultivate into the spirit-severing stage? The 2 of them. And even the disciples of the soaring Dragon Mountain range of the Fortune Gate were not bad, but they were not heaven-defying. The disciples of the Dao Gate of the Yi-Lin continent were unable to pass the nascent soul tribulation. If they couldn't pass the thunder tribulation, they would definitely not be able to pass it. Hearing that the topic had gone too far, Yu Hua, whose face was still red, hurriedly raised her voice and said, "Junior brother Lu, Senior Zhang just said that this is the flag of the demon subduing star formation. If I'm not wrong, the Royal Dome spiritual master's remains should be inside the formation. See. Lu Qingyu sucked in a breath of cold air and a trace of panic appeared in his eyes. He looked at Zhang Ji, who was also at a loss. On the other hand, Hong Feng was ecstatic and shouted, "That's great, that's great." Regardless of whether the Royal Dome spiritual master died or went missing, the things he left behind must be incomparably precious. If we bring it back to the sect, it will definitely bring benefits to the sect. Not to mention the Royal Dome spiritual master's remains, even if we bring the flag of the demon subduing star formation back to the sect, we will be able to. Hong Feng looked at Zhang Ji with a puzzled expression and asked, "Junior brother Zhang, you. Why are you looking at me?" "Senior brother Hong." Zhang Ji smiled bitterly and said, "Since we know that this is the place where the Royal Dome spiritual master underwent his thunder tribulation, we can't casually touch a single strand of grass here. In the past, the fallen immortal sect paid a huge price to find the whereabouts of the Royal Dome spiritual master. Not only did they want to confirm whether the Royal Dome spiritual master underwent his thunder tribulation, but more importantly, the demon subduing star formation and the things that the Royal Dome spiritual master left behind. Tell me, if we break the demon vanquishing star formation and take the things inside, the fallen immortal sect will definitely wipe us out from the Fengyan kingdom." "Hee, that's true." Hong Feng laughed and touched his head. He asked, "What about now?" "It's very simple." Lu Qingyu shrugged and replied, "We will rush back to the sect now and ask the sect leader to make a decision. If nothing goes wrong, the sect leader will send a disciple to deliver the flag to the fallen immortal sect at night. Moreover, the sect leader will definitely send a disciple here to protect this place until the fallen immortal sect's disciple arrives." Zhang Ji added on. As for Yuehua, she looked at Xiaohua worriedly. She was afraid that Xiaohua would suddenly break the formation. Chapter 48-51. Of course, Xiaohua wanted to see what was inside the array, but after thinking about it, he didn't find anything special when he was repairing his body. Those big and small square things were definitely not rocks, but things used to set up the array. However, these things weren't made of special materials, so they didn't attract Xiaohua's attention at all. Forget it, it's just the capital star array, this Xiao can set it up casually. Moreover, this Xiao's strength has already reached the 10th grade, why would I be greedy for these small advantages? Thinking of this, Xiaohua smiled and said, "Fairy you, don't worry, these things can't be seen in my eyes." Sigh, what a pity about these array flags. Hong Feng was still reluctant and looked into the distance. Without waiting for Hong Feng to finish speaking, Nuo Yeqing immediately smiled and said, "Senior Zhang, where are you going? If you have time, why don't you come to my Chanhe sect? My sect master is very hospitable, and he might have something that senior wants to know." Yuhua's eyes lit up, and she immediately came to a realization. Since Xiaohua could see that these were the array flags of the demon subduing star array, he should know the method of setting up the demon subduing star array. At the very least, he should be able to give some pointers, right? Senior. Yuhua glanced at Lu Qingyu and Zhang Ji, and the three of them bowed at the same time and said, "Junior has offended you previously, please forgive us. Junior would like to invite Senior to Xingyun Ridge, so that we can properly apologize to Senior." "Yes, yes." Hong Feng also realized and hurriedly bowed and said, "My Chanhe sect protection array is too weak, we also need Senior Zhang's pointers." Yuhua's face immediately turned red, their little thoughts were exposed by Hong Feng. He. Xiaohua looked at Yuhua's shyness and turned to ask Nuo Yeqing, "Does your Chanhe sect have a map of the Yilin continent?" Nuo Yeqing said cheerfully, "Senior, this junior has only seen the map of the Fengyan country in the sect, but the sect master definitely has it. If the sect master doesn't have it, my Chanhe sect's disciples will find a way to help Senior find it." My Chanhe sect has hundreds of thousands of disciples, it's definitely more convenient than Senior finding it alone. Since that's the case, let's go. Xiaohua said with a smile. Senior, please. Nuo Yeqing was overjoyed and raised her hand to invite Xiaohua to go first. Are there no flying boats? Xiaohua looked at Lu Qingyu and the others strangely. They were all golden core cultivators. It was impossible that they didn't even have a flying magic tool, right? Yes, yes. Lu Qingyu hurriedly took out a palm-sized magic tool from the ring and activated it with his magic power. It turned into a flying boat that was more than 100 feet in size. After inviting Xiaohua to board, he explained, juniors sneaked out and didn't dare to make a big fuss, so we didn't want to use a flying boat. Hee, it's too late to hide anything now. Yuehua smiled. She knew that the array flag was very important to the fallen immortal sect. If the Chanhe sect returned the array flag to the fallen immortal sect, they would definitely be on good terms with the fallen immortal sect. This was a great merit, and they would definitely be rewarded. The place that spiritual master Huang Qiong chose to transcend the tribulation was very remote. Lu Qingyu didn't know why Nuo Yeqing passed by this place. In short, Lu Qingyu steered the flying boat and flew for half a day. When night fell, they flew to the location of a teleportation array. After passing through the teleportation array, they flew for the time it took to burn an incense stick before arriving at a place with undulating mountain ranges. There were green pine trees on the left side of the mountain peaks. Waves of heaven and earth spirit chi floated in the wind like clouds. The patrolling disciples in armor shuttled through the clouds. Xiaohua smiled. After so many years, he finally arrived at the place where the Taoist cultivators gathered. When the flying boat landed, a group of Foundation establishment cultivators had already flown over to investigate. When they saw Lu Qingyu and the others, they bowed and saluted, but their eyes were fixed on Xiaohua. Before Lu Qingyu and the others spoke, Nuo Yeqing introduced, "This is Senior Zhang. He's a distinguished guest invited by my master. If possible, please send a message to the sect leader." The leading disciple was a little hesitant. Junior brother Nuo, it's not that I don't want to send a message, but these few days. Without waiting for the disciple to finish speaking, whoosh. A light shadow flew out from the mountain range and flew towards the left side of Xiaohua and the others. However, before the light shadow passed by, a divine sense swept over. Seeing that it was Lu Qingyu and the others, it immediately turned around and landed in a moment. It was a rather old late gold core stage old man. The old man hurriedly shouted, "Martial nephew Lu, why are you still here? The sect leader is furious. Why aren't you going over?" As he spoke, the old man's gaze fell on Xiaohua again. He asked curiously, "Who is this?" Lu Qingyu hurriedly bowed and said, "Greetings, martial uncle Hu. This is Senior Zhang, whom I met in the Wild West mountain range. He has some important matters to discuss with the sect leader." This old man is Hu Mubai. "Greetings, fellow Taoist Zhang." The old man with the surname Hu smiled and cupped his hands. "I'm Zhang Xiaohua." Xiaohua also smiled and politely returned the greeting. Hu Mubai couldn't see through Xiaohua's cultivation, and Xiaohua's name was unfamiliar to him. In particular, since Xiaohua came with Lu Qingyu, he probably wasn't a particularly powerful cultivator. Therefore, after greeting Xiaohua, Hu Mubai said to Lu Qingyu, "If martial nephew wants to introduce fellow Taoist Zhang, it'd be better to wait a few days. Recently, the sect leader has lost his temper several times because of the matter in the Yulan Hall. Now, the sect leader can't take it anymore. He wants me to go to the outer sect and urge them to hurry up." Yes, this junior understands. Lu Qingyu knew that Hu Mubai meant well. He smiled and said, "However, Senior Zhang's matter is very important. This junior doesn't dare to delay. Well, since that's the case, go to the Yulan Hall first and ask the sect leader to take you there. Hu Mubai nodded, cupped his hands at Xiaohua, and left. See. Not far away, the patrolling disciple also said, even Grandmaster Hu asked you to go to the Yulan Hall first. Don't make me send a message. All right. Nuo Yeqing was a little helpless. He said in a low voice, Senior, we're really too slow. It's fine, it's fine. Xiaohua liked to keep a low profile the most and waved his hand nonchalantly. When Yuehua saw this, she secretly liked it. She had also never seen such a secretive cultivator. However, when she saw that Xiaohua's clothes were not very suitable for him, she couldn't help but think of something else. After flying past the patrolling disciples of the Chanhe sect, it didn't take long for them to arrive in front of a platform that was about a mile wide. There was a huge white jade door on the platform. The words, Chanhe sect, were written on it in a flamboyant style. There was a faint fluctuation of magic power on the door. The fluctuation was like water ripples that spread in all directions. It landed near the door and connected with other fluctuations, protecting the mountain range behind the white jade door. The Yulan Hall was one of the many halls on the mountain range. Xiaohua landed in front of the mountain range with Yuehua and the others. He didn't fly directly into the hall. Instead, he followed a sky ladder that shone with a fluorescent light in the night. He seemed to be walking slowly, but in fact, he was climbing very quickly. Senior Zhang. Lu Qingyu had already spoken. He said in a low voice, in my Chanhe sect, you can't fly directly to the main peak if you're not in the nascent soul realm. I don't know what realm you're in. Xiaohua waved his hand and said, it's fine, it's fine. I don't like etiquette and ceremony. A guest should follow the host. That's good, that's good. When Lu Qingyu heard this, he felt like he was in a dream. He couldn't believe his luck that he could meet such an expert who didn't put on airs. Of course, while Lu Qingyu believed in Xiaohua, Zhang Ji muttered to himself. His confidence had been shaken, and he felt that Xiaohua might be a liar. However, this thought only flashed through Zhang Ji's mind. Regardless of whether Xiaohua was really a swindler or not, since Xiaohua could take out the capital star array's array flag from the array, his strength was not something that Zhang Ji could reach. Moreover, Xiaohua dared to come to the Chanhe sect and dared to face the head of the Chanhe sect. Xiaohua couldn't be a liar. While they were talking, they had almost reached the end of the sky ladder. Although there were some disciples flying low between the palaces on the mountain peak, which looked a little lively, these people didn't make any big movements. Even the Dao sect cultivators who weren't afraid of the night liked the silence of the night. Damn it! But in this silence, a hoarse and angry voice came into Xiaohua's ears. This is already the 17th batch, right? Why? Why haven't even 10 suitable disciples been chosen? If so, how many disciples can my Chanhe sect recruit this year? If we can't even find suitable disciples, why does the Chanhe sect want my Yulan Hall? It's better to close the door early and go to other places. Oh. Xiaohua was taken aback. His divine sense swept in the direction of the voice. Before he could find the location of the Yulan Palace, he had already seen more than 1,000 children around the age of 5 in the square in front of the palace. These children were not wearing much and were shivering in the night wind. However, each and every one of their small faces carried a kind of tenacity and expectation as they looked at the palace. This was a hall that was more than 1,000 feet high. Its style was simple and unadorned, which was very different from the Xiaoyu continent. There was a plaque above the door. This plaque was like a magnolia flower, and the 3 big words in the middle were Yulan Hall. There was no restriction on the door. A ray of light like Minghua stone penetrated through the door and fell to the ground, shining on several disciples in front of the door. Seeing Nuo Yecheng sneaking over stealthily, the disciple guarding the door hurriedly covered his mouth with his finger and motioned Nuo Yecheng to be quiet. Then he turned to look inside the hall and gently waved his right hand, indicating Nuo Yecheng to leave quickly. Unfortunately, Nuo Yecheng shrugged and looked helpless. She continued to approach slowly, which made the disciple feel helpless. Sure enough, just as Nuo Yecheng entered the hall, the voice inside shouted again, "Who is it? Don't you see that the disciples are being tested in the Yulan hall?" Chapter 48-52. Disciple Nuo Yecheng greets Palace Master. Nuo Yecheng stuck out her tongue and hurriedly bowed at the door. "Humph, you dare to come back? Where's your master? Why haven't I seen him for a day?" "Hee, congratulations Palace Master, congratulations Palace Master." Behind Nuo Yecheng, Lu Qingyu hurriedly flew out and bowed respectfully with a smile on his face. "Congratulations my ass." The voice inside said angrily, "I'm here supervising the array, where did you all go? If you don't explain it clearly today, I'll kick you out of Yulan Hall and down to Xingyun Ridge." "Palace Master, you've wronged me." Lu Qingyu cried, "I know that I'm afraid that I won't be able to complete the sect master's strict order this year, so I've been trying to find a way out. Today, I've returned with a full load, why don't you reward me?" You actually found 300 suitable disciples?" While they were speaking, a tall and sturdy old man's figure flashed and landed outside the door of the Yulan Palace. He grabbed Lu Qingyu's arm and peered out of the palace. This old man was dark and tall, like a general who had been on the battlefield. He was even more frightening than Hong Feng. Unfortunately, outside the hall, other than those disciples of Ho Li, there was only Xiao Hua and the others standing not far away. Where did the disciples come from? Damn it! The old man was a little angry and was about to curse. Yu Hua hurriedly shook the banner and handed it to the old man, saying, "Palace Master Xia, look, what is this? What is this?" The old man was stunned and asked curiously, "Are the 300 disciples in this banner?" "Palace Master, take a closer look." At this moment, of course, Zhang Ji was indispensable. He hurriedly stepped forward and reminded, "Look at this banner. What kind of array is this?" The old man looked for a while and shook his head, "I can't see it." As he spoke, the old man's lightning-like eyes swept towards Xiao Hua who was accompanying Hong Feng. Xiao Hua looked at the middle-stage nascent soul old man, smiled and cupped his hands, saying, "I Zhang Xiaohua greets Palace Master Xia. What's going on?" Palace Master Xia frowned and looked at Lu Qingyu. Lu Qingyu smiled and said, "Palace Master, please take a look at this flag and think about the Fallen Immortal Sect's protective mountain array." Fallen Immortal Sect's devil subduing star formation? Palace Master Xia seemed to have realized something. Looking at the flag, he asked curiously, "This is the array flag of the devil subduing star heavenly array? Where did you get it?" "We don't have that ability." Yuehua smiled. "This flag was given to us by Senior Zhang." It's like this. Without waiting for Yuehua to finish her explanation, Palace Master Xia immediately understood something when she mentioned the demon subduing star formation. His body trembled slightly, and his eyes flashed with ecstasy. Roar! Palace Lord Xia let out a long howl and cupped his hands at the sky. "Thank the heavens for giving my Chanha sect a way to survive." Then, he bowed to Xiao Hua and said, "I am Xiaofan. Thank you for your righteous act, fellow Taoist Zhang." I don't dare. Xiao Hua hurriedly wanted to raise his hand, but Xiaofan had already bowed. Xiao Hua could only say modestly, "This is all thanks to Nuo Yecheng. If he didn't find that place, how could I come here? This is an important matter. We can't delay it any longer. Fellow Taoist Zhang." Xiaofan stood up and hurriedly pulled Xiao Hua. He was about to soar into the sky, but he still said, "Please come with me to see the sect leader." However, when Xiaofan reached out his hand, he hesitated. After thinking for a while, he said with a smile, "I remember that the sect leader seems to be having a meeting with the elders in the Clear Heart Palace. He said that unless it's an emergency, no one can disturb him. I'm afraid that I'll have to wait until dawn if I go there." That's really disrespectful to fellow Daoist Zhang. How about this, fellow Daoist Zhang, you stay in my Yulan Palace and let Qingyu and the others accompany you. After I report to the sect leader, I'll let the sect leader come to welcome you personally. How about that? That's fine, that's fine. Go and do your work. Xiaohua smiled and waved his hand, indicating that Xiaofan should go quickly. Although the Chanhe sect was a small sect, in Xiaohua's eyes, the entire sect was actually not inferior to the Imperial Thunder sect. He was very interested to see what the Chanhe sect was like. Xiaofan cupped his hands and activated the earth to escape. Xiaohua looked at Xiaofeng's back with a thoughtful expression. This was because he didn't need to use any magic to see the flaws in Xiaofeng's cultivation. At the same time, he also saw that Xiaofan had been wandering around the gap between the early and middle stages of the nascent soul stage for a long time. If he couldn't break through within 10 years, it was unlikely that he would be able to reach the severed soul stage in this life. Hall Master, Hall Master. Before Xiaohua could withdraw his gaze, another voice sounded out from within the Magnolia Hall, and then another young cultivator with a pale complexion and a beard charged out and shouted towards the sky. Unfortunately, Xiaofan didn't pay attention to him at all and disappeared into a group of palaces at the top of the mountain. Where did sect leader Xia go? The young man was also an early nascent soul stage cultivator. He looked at Lu Qingyu and the others in confusion and asked. Lu Qingyu didn't dare to be negligent. He hurriedly bowed and said, "Vice sect leader Yun, sect leader Xia went to the Mingxin Palace for something." "What's the matter? Why are you so reckless?" "Sect leader told us not to disturb him." Vice sect leader Yun was a little unhappy. He looked at Xiaohua and seemed to be waiting for Xiaohua to come over and greet him. Xiaohua only smiled and nodded at him. He didn't mean to come forward and greet him. Yuhua hurriedly smiled and said, "It's like this, Vice sect leader Yun." However, before she finished speaking, Vice sect leader Yun waved his hand impatiently and said, "No need to report. Since sect leader Xia already knows, let him do it. Come in quickly. Tonight, we must find 20 children with good aptitude from these children." 20? Hong Feng exclaimed, "Vice sect leader Yun, how is this possible? We have already identified tens of thousands of children before, but we didn't find more than 10. How can we find 20 now? Why are you looking at me?" Vice sect leader Yun was even more unhappy. He scolded, "It's not like you don't know the situation of the sect. These children are my Chanhe sects." At this point, Vice sect leader Yun glanced at Xiaohua vigilantly. He swallowed his words and changed his words, "Anyway, this is the sect leader's order. Quickly follow the order." After speaking, Vice sect leader Yun turned and entered the Yulan Palace. He indeed looked very anxious. "Yes, Vice sect leader Yun." Hong Feng and the others didn't dare to be negligent. They hurriedly bowed and greeted. "Senior, please don't blame him," Yuhua said in a low voice very considerately. "Usually, sect leader Xia is impatient, and vice sect leader Yun is the one to fill in the gaps. Today, my Chanhe sect is indeed in some trouble, so vice sect leader Yun is also anxious. Why would Xiaohua care about this?" He waved his hand and said, "It's okay, I'm just a passerby." "Oh, right. What's the problem with Chanhe sect?" Yuhua forced a smile and said, "Senior already said that you're just a passerby. We don't need to trouble you with these things." Then, Yuhua ordered Nua Yeqing, quickly ask the disciples on night duty to prepare some spirit fruits and spirit wine. Yes, yes. Lu Qingyu also came to his senses and shouted, Yeqing, you stay here and accompany Senior Zhang. We'll go to the hall to help first. Yes, master. Nuo Yeqing rolled her eyes and was about to fly away. Xiaohua pulled her back and waved his hand, no need, you all go to the hall to do your work. Oh, right, can I enter the Yulan Palace? I want to see what you're doing. It's okay, it's okay. Without waiting for Lu Qingyu to speak, Nuo Yeqing shouted, didn't the sect leader say it clearly just now? Senior, please rest in the hall. Senior, feel free to enter. Lu Qingyu was a little hesitant. After all, Xiaofan only asked Xiaohua to wait in the Yulan Palace. He didn't say that Xiaohua could enter the Yulan Palace. However, when he saw Nuo Yeqing winking at him, he smiled bitterly in his heart. This disciple of his had been clever since he was young. He was very cunning and often made strange things. His actions must have some profound meaning. Lu Qingyu smiled and said, in that case, Senior, please come in. How could Xiaohua not see Nuo Yeqing's funny face? However, the more he looked, the more he liked it. It was as if he was looking at Xiang Zhili in the past. Therefore, he nodded and stepped into the Yulan Palace. As soon as Xiaohua entered, he immediately felt a gaze. Without a doubt, it was Deputy Sect Leader Yun. However, although there was some hostility in Deputy Sect Leader Yun's eyes, he didn't linger on Xiaohua. Oh! How lively! Xiaohua didn't pay attention to the strange gaze. He stood at the door and looked into the depths of the hall. Unconsciously, a smile appeared on his face as he spoke. The hall was several li in size. There were 81 huge pillars supporting the roof of the hall. Those pillars were not ordinary dragon pillars. Instead, they were carved with the petals of magnolia flowers. A faint fluorescent light was emitted from the jade pillars. It was as if 81 huge magnolia flowers were blooming in the hall. Xiaohua sighed with emotion inside the palace hall. It was very lively and was divided into a dozen or so regions. Each region had over 100 children. Although these children were standing respectfully, they were still children after all. They couldn't help but whisper, and when the whispers increased, it became noisy. Around each area, there were a few aura refining disciples walking around. They seemed to be maintaining order. However, because they were too tired, they didn't stop the children from whispering and yawning. In front of each area, there were 2 or 3 children sitting cross-legged. There were a few foundation building disciples around the children. Some of them were holding ruler-like magic tools and pointing them at the children's foreheads. Some of them were holding different kinds of talismans. They activated their magic power and stuck them between the children's eyebrows. At the head of the hall was naturally the high platform. At this time, Deputy Sect Leader Yun was walking around on the high platform. His eyes were looking from one area to another, and his eyes were filled with anxiety. Around the high platform, there were a few golden core cultivators guarding various places. They were also anxiously looking at the disciples who were appraising. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.